I'm a delivery driver for a local pizza joint. I turned 17 just a couple of months ago and decided to get a job to earn some money and gain work experience. It seemed like one of the easier options, definitely better than standing behind a counter bored all day. Still, every night started to feel the same. I'd drive the same routes, deliver to the same houses, and see the same regular customers. The only nights that ever felt different were the weekends, when random people would place orders and the store stayed open for delivery until 2 a.m., which meant I worked extra late. This happened on a Saturday. There was a decent-sized storm overhead. In most jobs, I'm sure that would mean a slow shift. Not here. When people don't want to go out, they order in, so business was booming. At least the tips were good. It stayed busy until around 11 or 12, and then it finally died down. For once, I actually had time to walk back into the shop and take a break while there were no orders coming in. I didn't really have anyone to talk to, though. All the other guys were older, in their 30s or 40s, except for a few college kids who weren't working that night. So, of course, when the next order came in, they sent me out to deliver it, even though the other delivery guy had been hanging around the shop talking for an hour. I didn't argue, I just took the order and got in my car. The address was on a street I didn't recognize, but the GPS said it was about 20 minutes away. I figured I'd drop it off and maybe take the long way back just to kill time, maybe even avoid getting stuck with another delivery before closing. As I headed out, the roads were nearly empty, like you'd expect that late at night. In hindsight, it sounds eerie, but at the time, I always found it calming. The neighborhood was pretty standard for around here. Houses set far back into the woods, long driveways connecting them to the road. Not unusually secluded for this town, but compared to most neighborhoods, they'd probably seem pretty remote. I turned down the driveway and parked in front of the house. It was large and old, and not a single light was on. As I grabbed the pizza and prepared to step out of my car, I saw a curtain move upstairs, just slightly, like someone had been standing there watching me. That actually happens a lot during deliveries, for obvious reasons, but this time it felt different, more unsettling. I couldn't see anyone behind the curtain. It was completely dark inside. Still, I got out and walked toward the porch, and that's when I noticed something strange. There was another pizza box sitting right there on the porch from a different local shop, one I'd only heard of a few times. I hadn't seen any cars leaving the driveway or anywhere in the neighborhood when I pulled in, so that box must have been sitting there for a while. It looked soggy, like the moisture from the rain had already soaked into the cardboard. That was weird. I stepped around it and knocked on the door. I needed payment, so I couldn't just leave the pizza. As soon as I knocked, I heard something shift inside the house, and then silence. A full minute passed. Nothing. So I knocked again. Still nothing. I knew someone was in there. After another minute, I pulled out my phone and called the number on the order. A few seconds later, I heard a phone ringing inside the house.
It sounded close, like it was right behind the door, like someone was standing there holding it, but no one opened the door. Now I was genuinely confused. I had seen someone upstairs, the phone was ringing inside, someone had clearly placed the order, and yet nothing. That's when the feelings started creeping in, that uncomfortable, eerie sensation in your gut that something isn't right. I was actually considering just setting the pizza down next to the other one and leaving, when suddenly a voice called out from behind the door. "The door's broken, bring it around to the side porch." It was a woman's voice, but it had this harsh, gravelly tone to it. I instinctively took a couple of steps back before slowly walking around the house. There was no overhang on that side, so I had to walk straight through the rain, getting soaked along with the pizza. When I reached the side door, it looked old, worn down and barely used. If the front door was really broken, wouldn't this one show signs of regular use? Instead, it looked abandoned. There were cobwebs and dirt all over it. The outdoor light above it didn't even work. I stood there for about 30 seconds, rain pouring down on me. I didn't hear any footsteps coming toward the door, no movement inside, nothing. That's when I started feeling it, that intense sensation of being watched. I looked around, but it was nearly impossible to see anything in the darkness. With no house lights on, the trees around me felt thicker, closer. That feeling grew stronger by the second, and I just knew something was seriously wrong. Without thinking any further, I dropped the pizza box and ran. I sprinted back to my car, jumped in, and drove off immediately. On the way back to work, I kept thinking about that other pizza box on the porch. Maybe it belonged to the other delivery guy. Maybe something similar had happened to him and he knew better. Maybe he saw something that made him leave it there and get out. And if that's the case, then whatever plan those people had didn't work the first time. So they ordered again from a different shop. They clearly didn't care about the pizza. They left it sitting out there in the rain while they were home. The only thing I can't figure out is what the plan actually was. My best guess? She wasn't alone. Someone else was there, maybe hiding out in the trees, and bringing me around to the side of the house would mean no witnesses to whatever was about to happen next. I still work at the same pizza shop, but I've never had anything happen even close to that disturbing since, and I really hope I never do.
This happened just under 2 years ago. At the time, I was a park ranger for a large wilderness area that I'm not going to specify to remain anonymous. It wasn't a commonly visited forest, though. Other areas in the state were far more popular, even though the one I worked in was massive and incredibly dense. Because visitation was low, the number of working park rangers was also very small. My job responsibilities varied. Some days I'd trek up to remote campsites to clean and maintain them. Other times I'd patrol the forest or assist in search and rescue missions for hikers who needed aid. Since overnight camping and backpacking were allowed, our park always had several rangers working graveyard shifts in case anything happened. I often worked in between shifts, usually getting off anywhere between midnight and sometimes 3 or 4 in the morning. On this particular day, I had spent most of the afternoon at a campground in a remote section of the park, cleaning it up and making sure everything was safe and well maintained. I had taken an ATV most of the way down the trail until the terrain became too rugged and steep, and then I hiked the rest of the distance to the campground. While I was there, I didn't see a single tent or any sign of other people. It was just me. I left shortly after the sun had gone down, hiking back in the dark to my ATV, and then carefully riding it back to the lodge where I was stationed. The lodge was really just a small cabin with a wood stove in the corner, a desk, and a heavy-duty radio to contact other rangers or authorities. About an hour after I returned, rain began pouring down. Storms were common in that area, so it wasn't unusual. I brewed some coffee and sat at the desk, taking notes about the campground conditions I had just inspected. A couple of hours passed quietly before the radio suddenly clicked on. Another ranger's voice came through, asking if I was there. I picked it up and asked what he needed. He asked if I had seen anyone at the campground earlier. I told him no, not a single person, not even a tent or signs that someone had been there recently. There was a long, uncomfortable 30-second pause before he responded. His voice sounded hesitant as he said he might need me to head back out there and take another look. He didn't seem overly concerned, but apparently the ranger station had received a satellite SOS ping from someone, and the location was on the same trail I had just come from. I was the closest ranger.
The others were at least an hour away. He mentioned that no text message or follow-up communication had come through with the SOS. Normally, when we receive an alert without any additional response, it's just accidental. Those devices can get triggered inside someone's backpack without them realizing it. Still, we always check. It's better to confirm than risk ignoring a real emergency. Unfortunately, it had to happen on a night when it was pouring rain. I grabbed my radio, raincoat, headlamp, and a heavy-duty flashlight before leaving the lodge on foot. The ATV was useless in weather like this. It would have gotten stuck before even reaching the trail. I confirmed the general location of the ping with the other ranger. He said it was about 2 miles up the trail, but since it was only one signal, they couldn't determine which direction the person was heading. The walk took nearly 45 minutes. Considering the storm, that was quick, but I was worried. If someone was actually out here, especially an inexperienced hiker, this could turn bad fast. Even with my powerful headlamp, flashlight, and familiarity with the trail, navigating through the forest in that storm was extremely difficult. The trail was hard to track. Without proper clothing and knowledge of the terrain, it could easily become life-threatening. When I reached the general area, I swept my flashlight around while continuing along the trail. And suddenly, as my beam passed through the trees, someone was standing there. It nearly stopped my heart. He was close, maybe 10 feet off the trail. The man was completely soaked, long hair hanging down in wet strands. He wasn't wearing a rain jacket or any visible gear. He looked delirious, but also strangely focused. I shouted over the rain, identifying myself as a ranger and asking if he was okay. He didn't respond. He just stood there in the storm, staring at me. That's when I realized he didn't appear to have any equipment on him. I didn't see a backpack. I didn't see a satellite messenger clipped anywhere. And if he was the one who sent the SOS, I would have expected it to be attached to him somehow. I waved him toward me and told him to come back to the trail. I said my lodge was just a few miles down and we could get him warm. Without warning, he bolted. He ran deeper into the forest, disappearing into the darkness and rain within seconds. I immediately grabbed my radio and told the other ranger I had found someone, explaining his condition. That was the moment I had to make a decision. Follow him into the forest, which is extremely dangerous, or stay on the trail and wait. I stood there for several minutes, unsure, talking with the other ranger and trying to decide. Maybe he was truly lost. Maybe he had been out there for days and was paranoid or delirious. While we were talking, the ranger suddenly said, "Hold on." I waited. When he came back on the radio, he said they had received another SOS ping from the same device. This time, it was about a quarter-mile east of the first location. That was directly where I had just seen the man run. It had to be him. But why would he run from me, only to trigger the SOS again? I stepped off the trail and walked further into the forest, pushing my flashlight beam ahead as far as possible. Honestly, this was the first time in my career that I felt shaken enough to question whether I could handle the situation. I felt trapped between two outcomes. If I didn't pursue him and he truly needed help, I could face serious consequences. But every instinct was telling me something wasn't right. Maybe he was trying to lead me to someone else. Maybe someone else had triggered the SOS. So I kept walking. 5 minutes passed.
I scanned everything around me, genuinely afraid of what I might find. The image of him standing silently in the trees replayed in my mind, tightening my stomach every time. Then my flashlight caught something on the ground, a small device. It glowed faintly, reflecting my beam. I recognized it immediately, a Garmin satellite messenger, the standard type hikers use, bright orange, distinct shape, no mistaking it. And just as I thought, where is the person who used this? I heard footsteps sprinting toward me from my right. I swung my flashlight over. It was him. And he wasn't running like someone who needed help. He was charging at me. It looked like he was trying to tackle me to the ground. Even when I dodged out of the way, he stumbled and fell, still reaching for me. For a split second, I froze, completely confused about what was happening. Then he started getting up, and all it took was one clear look into his eyes. They looked almost lifeless, like he was in some kind of fugue state, but there was something dark behind them, something deeply wrong. That's when I ran. I knew without a doubt he was dangerous. I believe now that he used the SOS signal intentionally to lure me out there alone. He probably saw me on the trail earlier and knew I'd be the one responding. I radioed the other ranger, telling him I believed it was a setup. Eventually, I made it back to the lodge and locked myself inside. It took 10 more minutes for another ranger to arrive. 40 minutes after that, an officer finally showed up. Because of the severity of the storm and the potential danger, the search was postponed until morning. It was still raining, but visibility had improved. They found the satellite messenger exactly where I had seen it, but the man was gone.
What unsettles me most is that he didn't look like he had anything with him. No gear, no pack, which makes me question where he got the satellite messenger in the first place. Those devices are expensive. It would be strange if that was the only thing he owned out there. I continued working there for a while after that. Nothing else ever surfaced. No more sightings, no more mysterious SOS calls. I left almost exactly a year later. I never fully recovered mentally from that night. I replay it over and over in my head. I know I was close to something horrible, and the idea of being back out there if something similar happened again was terrifying. I don't think it ever will. The whole thing was quietly swept under the rug, but if there's ever an update, I'll let you know. This happened during a road trip I was taking from a small town in Maine all the way out to the Midwest. Let's just say there was a situation going on with my family that I felt warranted me going out there to visit for a while. Because of that, the trip wasn't very well planned. Normally, I wouldn't even drive that distance, I'd just fly. But this time, I decided to make the drive. By the second day, I realized I was falling behind schedule. All the gas station stops, meals, and rest breaks had taken up more time than I expected, so I decided to try and make up for it by driving later into the night. At that point, I was already in the part of the Midwest where there's basically nothing, just straight, flat, empty roads stretching for miles. The rain started slowly, almost peaceful at first, but it gradually intensified until it became a full-blown wind and thunderstorm by the time darkness settled in. I actually enjoy driving in the rain, but at night, in the middle of nowhere, not so much. It eventually got bad enough that I decided to pull off at the next rest stop and wait it out to see if the storm would calm down before continuing. I don't have many rest stops to compare it to, but this one seemed fairly decent. It was completely quiet aside from the pounding rain. No cars, no trucks, nothing. When I ran inside to use the restroom, it was clean and well kept. I got back into my car, reclined the seat, and figured I'd rest for a bit. At some point, I must have passed out. I woke up, I think about an hour later, to a blinding flash of lightning followed immediately by a thunderclap so loud it felt like it burst my eardrums. The car shook from the impact. I sat up quickly and checked the time. 12:05 a.m. I looked around the parking lot, still empty. Not a single car, not a single person. My heart rate spiked. I got out quickly, shut the door, and jumped back inside. The only explanation I could think of was that I must have left my car unlocked when I went inside earlier, distracted by the storm. But then the question hit me. Who opened my car door, and why? Nothing appeared to be missing. It almost felt like someone had walked up, seen me sleeping, quietly opened the door, gotten in, and then left without shutting it fully, maybe to avoid waking me. I don't know what happened while I was asleep, but I was way too creeped out to stay there any longer. I started the car and got back onto the highway. The weather was still dangerous, but I needed to get somewhere else. I drove about 20 minutes, my mind racing the entire time, replaying what I had just discovered. Eventually, I found a gas station sitting alone just off the highway. I genuinely couldn't tell if it was closed for the night or completely abandoned, but it didn't matter. I wasn't planning to stay long, and I definitely wasn't falling asleep again. I just needed somewhere to wait out the storm. I parked directly in front of the building. The place was exactly as unsettling as you're probably imagining. Every light was off. With the rain pouring down and the darkness surrounding it, I could barely see anything beyond the reach of my headlights. I didn't have service, so my phone was useless. I locked the doors and just sat there, staring out into the fog and rain. About 20 minutes passed. I started spacing out, trying to distract myself, when I looked around again, and that's when I noticed another car. It was parked just a couple of spaces away from me. Dark black, tinted windows, headlights off. I never saw it pull in. Immediately, I wondered if someone had been following me. I had never seen that car before, but two strange incidents in the middle of nowhere during a storm? That felt like too much of a coincidence. I stared at the car as if that would somehow reveal what they were doing there. Then suddenly, the sound of my back door handle being pulled. I spun around and saw a figure standing right by the window. The moment he realized I was looking at him, he moved away. Panic hit instantly. I tried to see where he went, but he disappeared behind my car. I couldn't see him. I couldn't hear him. But this confirmed it for me. I had been followed, and he had just tried to open the same door as before. Thankfully, I had locked it this time. My hands were shaking as I fumbled with the controls, trying to turn on different lights to illuminate the darkness behind me. As I did that, I started hearing and feeling thumps against the back of my car. He was still there. He was hitting it, or trying to do something to it. That's when I snapped back to reality and threw the car into drive. As I pulled out, I couldn't even see him. I drove for nearly 2 hours straight to reach a small town where I could report what happened. Once there, I finally checked the back of my car. There were scratches, dents, pry marks on the trunk. It looked like someone had used a knife or something sharp to try forcing it open. I don't know if he was trying to get what was inside, or if he was trying to get inside. And if this was the same guy from the rest stop, why didn't he just rob me while I was asleep? Why open the door and leave without taking anything? I still have no idea what really happened that night. All I know is it scared the hell out of me, and it could have been a whole lot worse.